Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of Inspired Action, where we dive into the most pressing leadership challenges and hope to inspire you to take a more coach-centered and people-focused approach to leadership. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and it's time to get started with our three amazing guests today. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspired Action. I'm your host, Kyle Pertuis, and I'm here with three amazing guests today to answer this question. What strategies can we employ to ensure all voices are heard in discussions? We hear more and more about a collaborative workplace, so I'm excited to hear what these three have to say. But first, let me do a quick intro. We have Courtney Muller, who's the VP of People and Executive Coach at Courtney Muller Career and Leadership Coaching. We have Sarah Maley, who's also a professional coach and owner of Sarah Maley Coaching. And last but not least, we have Seth Flowers, regional sales manager with Cazzini Brothers, and also the owner of Go Big Coaching and Consulting. Thank you guys so much for being here. I cannot wait to hear each of your responses. So let's jump right in. A reminder, and Courtney, we're going to start with you, but just a reminder, that question for you, what strategies can we employ to ensure all voices are heard in discussion?
Awesome. Thank you. So when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about what I do with teams. And one of the things that I do is really try to set the tone early on in terms of how I show up from a leadership perspective, as well as how I try to build culture around this. So if I'm kicking off a new project or a type of meeting, a reoccurring meeting, I really try to set clear expectations from the start around how we're going to engage and collaborate as a team. And I've used something called rules of engagement. And this was taught to me by a previous manager, but really looking at how do we interact? How do we collaborate? How do we make sure that, each person in the room is encouraged to speak up and share their perspective? And me as a leader, how can I help facilitate that? So up front, maybe it's a round robin where everybody can, share their ideas from the start of that session, or we'll time block, for each person to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. But really, how can I help facilitate, equitability across the board in those conversations? And the other thing I've tried to do with these rules of engagement is really collaborate on those from the start. So, I'll start to put some ideas on the table, but we'll have a discussion around, okay, how do we want to engage in this meeting type so that everybody feels like they're part of that process and they're more bought into in creating that inclusive environment from the start. So I think with this, it's not just setting those rules of engagement, but how do we stay consistent with it? How do we make sure that we're using it ongoing? But these are some of the things that I've learned over the years.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of that whole design for dialogue, right? Not domination, and having somebody that can
Exactly.
facilitate that process to keep it moving. Love it. Let's jump over to Sarah. Sarah, same question for you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the beauty of going second is first I get to say ditto to what Courtney said because there's so much about around the preparation for this, and I think Courtney spoke so beautifully with that peace in mind. Where I would like to add is so often we need to really understand how we naturally show up. And there's a lot of, whether we say ego, brain science, lots of different reasons why it can be positively reinforcing to step in a conversation and share with folks how smart we are, how we're right, how there's like a right answer and a wrong answer. And if you notice, when we approach that, and by the way, it's with the best of intentions, we're all well intended, but if we're not self-aware, we're going to come into a conversation with our default mode. And if that default mode, although well intended, is I have a right answer and there's a right or wrong. Because if you notice, if we come into a conversation with our answer already formed, we're coming in with judgment. Because if we're already clear on what our answer is, we now are potentially judging others in the room who think differently. So it might be very coachy of me as I hang out with this group of coaches, is another approach is to be very curious and going back to what Courtney said, clear on what your role of engagement is. Am I here to learn from folks? Am I here to better understand what another point of view is? And you notice with those two reframes, I just potentially come at that conversation with curiosity and less judgment.
Yeah, no question. I think as you were kind of talking through, especially that first part about people processing the right answer and want to show how smart they are, I think a big piece in opening our minds and ears to a collective voice is really encouraging that first draft thinking, right? Let's lay it down. Let it be messy, let it be unpolished thought, come without any pressure, and just put it on the table so we can all kind of play with whatever that is and see what we can grow from. Right? I love it. Steph, let's move over to you. What are your thoughts? And you can't say ditto. I mean, I guess you can, but I know you've got some things to add as well.
Well, and I do. I think that Courtney and Sarah really bring up great points, and one of the things that I've learned as a leader is expectations are the key across the board. One of the things I thought about when I came into this is a lot of times people are heard via their performance, and people will always rise to expectations. But I think a lot of times leaders don't ever set those expectations, so people don't know what they need to rise to. And so when you're being heard, I think the number one thing that you have to do is that setting expectations. What's going to be the rules of engagement? What is the standard for a standard meeting? What are my expectations for your performance out there? But at the end of the day, also, is we have to know our people. Some people want to be heard vocally. Some people want to be heard via their performance. Some people want to be heard via the work that they do on a project. And so just privately telling them, man, you really knocked it out of the park, or even just using their work in a group setting and privately letting them know, hey, I'm going to be using this moving forward, because they don't want the recognition in a public place. But knowing your people and how they want to be heard is one of the best ways that you can make sure that they are heard. And so when you're setting those expectations, it's true. I think so many times we go into meetings and we don't even know how we're going to act. What's this setting? What is going to be talked about? When do I get a chance to talk? But then at the same time, outside of those meetings is going to be, what am I supposed to be performing to? What are my expectations? I think the same thing, Kyle, that you kind of started this off with is talking about going into a seminar or something like that. What are the expectations coming out of this? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I going to take away? One thing, 10 things, 5 things? What is it? And I think when we're heard, we know what the expectations are that we're going to come out to, and we know how to use our personalities to be heard through that.
Yeah, I love that around expectations, man, because that also contributes to accountability, right? And I think expectations often become one-sided. Like, Seth, this is what I expect from you. We have to kind of reciprocate that. Like, Seth, what do you expect from me as your leader? So we understand kind of resources, support, all of those kind of things. Yeah, good stuff. All right, you guys. Great responses. That's all the time we have for today. But incredible responses. I hope you guys are taking away some great strategies on how you can employ some of these things to ensure all voices are heard in your organizations or in your circles. Thanks again for watching. We'll catch up with you soon. Well, that's a wrap for another edition of Inspired Action, the Leadership Forecast. We're so grateful for our guests today and the impact they're making in their businesses, their personal lives, communities, and be sure to hop over to our YouTube channel to watch the full version of this episode, and be sure to like, comment, connect with, and follow me and each of our guests. You can find all of our links in the caption. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in every Thursday at noon Central, 1 Eastern for all new episodes.